Do you think that you can accomplish your goals fast enough to keep up with what has been a surge in energy consumption?
I think we will. You're right, it's a challenge. I mean, the agenda of President Trump is to unleash American energy. The last 4 years, the Biden administration was more to shackle American energy. But you're right, there's rapidly rising demand. And what we as the government need to do is enable private businesses to build the things they want to build and invest in the things they want to build. We're not going to do this building ourselves, but we're going to enable private businesses to do it.
Well, I'm glad that you brought up private businesses, and to kind of put a finer point on this idea of urgency, we actually heard from Mark Zuckerberg yesterday, pledging billions that Meta is going to invest in data centers. But it is raising concerns about an energy crisis to fuel it. I'm wondering, have you spoken to Mark Zuckerberg or Meta about their plans?
We speak Meta extensively about their plans. And yeah, there's a number of the hyperscalers that have huge investment opportunities. We're excited about that. This is the newest energy-intensive industry to arise. That's what artificial intelligence is, energy-intensive industry, taking the most sophisticated, most expensive form of energy, electricity, and turning it into intelligence to transform our world and protect our nation. So yeah, Meta has huge investment plans, as does Amazon and Microsoft and Google and the other players in that space. And we need all of them will invest. It's a few $100 billion this year. In fact, you'll hear at the conference today announcements. It was 70 and I think now $90 billion just in the state of Pennsylvania.
When you hear big investments, though, and how much energy that is going to take, what's your level of concern, though, that there is going to perhaps be such a great demand? Can the U.S. really keep up with it?
Absolutely. You know, United States energy production, because of the shale revolution, just exploded in the last 10 or 12 years. Pennsylvania is a massive energy producer today. Pennsylvania exports more energy out of its state than any other state except for Texas. And Pennsylvania could massively grow its energy production, just doesn't have enough pipeline capacity to move that natural gas out of the state. So what's going to happen is more of that gas or additional gas will be consumed in Pennsylvania, turned into electricity, generated intelligence, and keep the United States ahead of China in the AI race.
So I want to talk about oil, and I also want to welcome in our audience that has just joined us. We are talking to the U.S. Energy Secretary Christopher Wright. I'm Tyler Kendall. I want to show you some of these statistics that our analysts at Bloomberg polled, that the U.S. oil rig count has dropped 13% since late February. It's in the midst of its longest contraction since 2020. I know that there were some incentives in the reconciliation package, but what further incentives is the administration considering to help get forward these oil rigs to continue drilling?
Mostly it's get out of the way. You know, the Biden administration had 4 years, all of government approach to try to, as they said, end fossil fuels. Now, that didn't work very well. We went from 82% of American energy coming from fossil fuels before Biden took office to 82%, exactly the same when he left office. Those are just simply the energy sources that power our country and our world today. But it's get out of the way of the marketplace. Right now, U.S. production has grown so fast, as has other places in the world, that prices are maybe at the low end of profitability for producers here, so you see a pullback in activity. You're going to see, with these new investments in economic growth in the United States, we're going to see growth in demand for oil, and of course that'll probably bump prices back up a little bit, keep drillers active.
Well, you mentioned there perhaps a lower price environment, and part of this also, when we're talking about costs that these companies are facing, has to do with tariffs. And I wanted to ask you about copper in particular, which is essential to data centers and getting energy to help power AI. What sort of impact is a 50% copper tariff set to go into effect on August 1st going to have when we're talking about the cost for energy infrastructure?
Well, I think the biggest impact of that 50% tariff on copper is going to speed up copper mining in the United States. We have enormous copper resources here. We have some huge mines that have been trying to get going for years. We want to get copper production growing rapidly in this country. Copper, like steel, is just essential to everything that happens in the world.
Should we expect the energy industry to get some sort of tariff carve-out moving forward?
I believe the president plans no special carve-outs. He wants to reindustrialize the United States of America. There's a lot of tools to do that. Make it easy to invest in the United States, make it attractive to invest in the United States, and tariffs are an additional element of that toolbox.
I'm sure you're talking to industry, though. Is
Yes.
a carve-out on the table? Are there any negotiations underway for, say, the oil industry to get a carve-out when it comes to the equipment that they use in the field, like copper or steel, for example?
No discussions right now. We are hearing from the industry, and of course this is true. If you incrementally raise the cost of projects, that hurts the economics of them. We want to do everything we possibly can to maximize investments in the United States so jobs and opportunity come here to our country.
Lastly, I just want to ask you a geopolitical question, because we did hear from President Trump yesterday threaten a 100% so-called secondary tariff on countries that import Russian energy supplies. If that were to go into effect, what would that do to prices in the global energy market?
Something like that would likely drive oil prices up. I think President Trump's strong agenda there is to end the war in Ukraine. Our hope is that that large pressure will have an impact on Russia, and we can bring just a brutal war in Eastern Europe to an end. That's President Trump's goal, is prosperity at home and peace abroad. And the old formulas weren't working very well in that respect. So yeah, President Trump has very different tools, very different negotiating skills, and very different level of boldness. I think we're going to see tremendous growth in peace abroad and prosperity at home.